Hi
Hi
Antra,
everyone.
hi Zoe.
Uh, Everyone who's listening, welcome to our InfoSec Girls Meet for empowering women in cybersecurity, breaking barriers, and staying secure. And we have these wonderful ladies here at the panel, but I'll let everyone introduce themselves. We'll start with Antara, then Shivani and Zoe. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. In afternoon and evening, wherever you are. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome everybody to this special discussion, especially in celebrating in the celebration of International Women's Day. Today, we are not just celebrating women, but we are also empowering them, especially in this digital world where cybersecurity and privacy are more important than ever. We are living in this world where our lives are increasingly digital. Like cybersecurity is no longer just a technical discipline, right? It's a human issue. It affects how we interact online, how we protect our data, and how we ensure that our voices, ideas, and personal informations remain safe. Yet despite its growing importance, cybersecurity remains a field where women are underrepresented. But that's changing. More and more women are breaking barriers, securing networks, and shaping the future of digital safety, right? Cybersecurity is not just about protecting systems, but it's also about protecting people from the personal data leaks to financial frauds. Women often face unique and cybersecurity threats that can impact their safety, privacy, and professional growth. So this session is more than awareness, right? It's about empowerment. And as we celebrate Women's Day, we also aim to clarify cybersecurity career paths for women, addressing few major challenges, opportunities, and misconceptions in this industry. We will also discuss some real life digital threats. We will also, break the barriers in cybersecurity, whether you are a student, a developer, or an aspiring security professional, right? You'll find guidance onto, finding your place in this field, right? And equip women with practical cyber self-defense skills, right? So we'll also deep dive, gain some real-world insights from the experts, who have navigated these challenges and built successful careers in cybersecurity. So we will deep dive into all the technical, ethical, and social dimensions of cybersecurity, discussing real-world cyber incidents, mitigation strategies. It would be more like an solution driven conversation as well, where the industry leaders will share their insights and practical takeaways to help everybody navigate both personal cybersecurity and career paths in this industries. So as of now, so just to give a short background about myself, so my name is Antara. I have been into cybersecurity domain for like past 5 years, majorly as a pen tester and a researcher. Been working with a lot of uh, big giant industries in India, somewhat in the overseas as well. And I love finding critical bugs in any of the assets. I love securing them, and I also like to spread awareness. I've been in touch with uh, various industries as well. I also like to deliver trainings as well to help guide the newcomers into this field, how they can step into this field, and if anything else that I could help them to begin their professional career with. So this is just a short introduction about myself and the today's session's overview.
Thank you Antra for that lovely introduction. And hello everyone. For those who are listening, I'm Shivani. I'm the founder and CEO of Cleap Cybersecurity. So my journey into cybersecurity wasn't very conventional. I started outside tech and then built my passion into cybersecurity. With time, today I run a cybersecurity company that helps people and businesses protect their data. And beyond my role as an entrepreneur, I also advocate women in cybersecurity. I help newcomers and students how to take up career paths into cyber. And I'm very excited to be here today and share my insights on this Women's Day and my experiences that has helped me come up and achieve this position in my life. And I hope all the practical advices that we discussed today will empower few of the women. Even if one gets this takeaway home, I think our mission here would be successful.
Well said. Well said. And hi, I'm Zoe Braderman. I am a security consultant and a Web3 entrepreneur. And yeah, I think we just need more women to feel empowered to join security first and foremost. because I don't think the skills gap is much of an issue, especially as everything's just continuing to change. So it's my goal for this year and International Women's Day, to empower.
Speaking of that, would you like to, add more lights into why cybersecurity would be a great career choice for everybody? Like, is it due to the high demand, skill that is there for this particular field, or if you'd like to spread some more lights to it?
Sure. I mean, I think, the high demand, but also the diversity of types of roles that are available and the just, the importance. You're doing meaningful work. You're protecting an organization, you're protecting end users, you're protecting people and entities, and you're doing important work. So I think there's that always brings me joy.
Absolutely. I think let's start with like a very simple truth. So cybersecurity needs more of very diverse uh, uh, population, I would say, because it really brings up very unique perspectives. You know, you have like different problem solving skills and abilities, your analytical skills change, and then what you do in the end, you try to make security very holistic and it becomes very stronger, because when different mindsets get together, there are always very different set of solutions that come up with, and sometimes unconventional one really do work. I have been like the living proof myself, is you don't have to be a very hardcore coder, or maybe you should be like very technical, because there are very diverse roles in this field. You can be a tech person, you can also be into compliance, GRC, you can also be into like sales and marketing. So there are very lot of different roles in this field that one can take up. So similarly, like I started out of tech, and I worked my way, learned some skills, learned technology. So we can always pick up niche that is suitable for us and we excel at. And I think if we can do it, anyone can do it, and so can you.
Right. So, can you also, help us understand more into the different career paths in cybersecurity? Say, for example, even if it's something in compliance and governance, right? Even if it's a SOC
Mhm.
analyst, as a pen
Right,
tester or a team,
right.
or AppSec, or maybe a blue teaming, a defense security, right? What would be like the initial step that one needs to take or one needs to understand to, to deep dive into the different career paths in cybersecurity?
Mhm. Uh, from my perspective, I would like to say that from the very start, we should understand like cybersecurity from a very holistic overview, thinking of it is for protecting people and businesses. So once we have that in mind, and the meaningful work that we do in this field, and it is a very high demanding job. So once we understand that work is very meaningful, we will be able to align ourselves to different career paths. So when we say how to break into it or how to start, I think basics, learning of basics is very important. Be it be if you want to be a SOC analyst, because SOC analyst also would require you to have very good knowledge of operating systems, networking, how the initial level, uh, a little bit of scripting, coding. That is like the basic foundation, because on top of it, skills can be learned. And the cybersecurity part, which is like skill dependent, that is something which you learn on top of your basics. So I would say start from the basics if you want to get into the technical field, like SOC analysts. SOC analysts like are the first line of defense, and they help you in detect, they help you in responding to threats at a given point in time. So you need to understand the technicality behind it, when to alert, how to alert, and then how do you make a threat, like incident response report. So all these are very basic things. As a pen tester, you should know, again, operating systems, network concepts. These are all basic skills. So when you have to get into the technical aspect, even if you want to go into the GRC, you need to understand the basic of how technology works. And rest, whatever you learn, is an add-on skill on top of it.
Well said. Yeah, and I mean, you know, where you want to start might depend on what previous knowledge you have. For example, so if you've been a software developer for a while and you want to get into security, then application security is a good career to pursue. So being able to help train other developers, mentor other developers on how to write secure code, how to secure your CI/CD, and you know, practices, and you know how it overlaps with requirements in GRC as well. Um, Look at a standard like the application security verification standard and say, well, I'm building a piece of software, or I built this piece of software. What have I or my fellow developers or architects done to meet these requirements? And what can
Right.
I do moving forward next time I build something, whether it be my own or for work?
Right. Right. And as you've said, Shivani, earlier as well, right? There are certain, not necessarily only technical, but there are some non-tech skills that are also
Right.
that will also create a major impact when you want to do enter a cybersecurity, right? So non-tech skills like problem solving or critical
Right.
thinking or maybe communications, right?
Right.
So could you also, help us understand more onto that part?
Right. So when we talk about non-technical skills, uh, I would say a little bit of technology is required in every part of
Required, yes.
GRC. Like if we talk about GRC also, let's say you are doing a
Right,
gap analysis activity or a risk assessment, or you are doing a
right,
third party risk assessment and audit. So there will be a lot of controls, clauses that you have to understand from technology perspective too, because it will have cloud security, it will also have your vulnerability management, it will also have your penetration testing, your disaster recovery, backup. So all these are into compliance assessments. So if I say non-technical skills, you should have that critical thinking ability. You should have an eye to catch details, like paying close attention to details, because compliance is always about going by the book, learning by the book, and picking out nuances from where technology gap is there, or where a risk gap is there, what is the severity of that risk. So I think non-technical skills like critical thinking, assessing the risk based on their ease of exploitation, or on the severity. So that is very important. You have to be a very good communicator. If you are in GRC, the way you talk, the way you conduct, and way you present reports to the stakeholders or higher management, that really bring impact to what you are presenting, because compliance is all about following the standard and making sure that your company is aligned to it. And on top of that, continuous learning that I really focus on, and I also tell my team, everybody who I meet, like continuous learning is very, very important in each and every field, because technology gets
right,
updated by the hour. And if you're not updated what's going on around, you're obsolete. So there are new rules. Having a knack to see what's new in compliance. Now LLM AI compliance is there. So what is new coming up? How can you integrate
right,
those in your current portfolio of your work? So that is very important.
right,
Being aware and making sure according to the situation you are updated. That's very
right,
important. And even
right,
if you're not very deep into technical skills, that's okay. Like security awareness trainings, or roles
right,
like compliance and GRC, they're very critical roles too. So even if you
right,
know how the world works in terms of tech, I think you can navigate the waters, but you should be like very thorough in what you read, what you write. For compliance, you should have an excellent writing skills too, because when you're
correct,
writing reports and you are
correct,
updating your comments, it should reflect the way you write, and it should reflect the
correct,
current posture of the organization. So I miss that part. So you should have an excellent writing skill as a auditor.
correct. Correct.
It's very true. People need to read it.
Yes.
People need to read what you write, otherwise things can go wrong.
Absolutely. And it should be understandable too, because if you write really
Right.
fancy and in the context of legal terms, it would be very difficult for stakeholders and higher management to understand what is it. So it has to be in a way, written in a way where it is easily understandable and they have actionable insights on it. Because what's the point of having a very full-fledged report when you cannot action it? So your writing really matters.
Right. Thank you. Back to you, Zoe. You have mentioned earlier that on the technical skills, if there are any fellow developers who want to, divert from their existing role to some new role into cybersecurity, right? So they need to have some sort of skill sets with them to enter into this field, right? So we have discussed until now there are some basic technical skill that one needs to have in handy when they have decided to switch their career from some XYZ to cybersecurity, right? So along with those basic technical skills, and if some fellow developer needs to transition from their development skill to into cybersecurity, right? So what additional skill do they require in to proceed ahead or to to be in the top game? And being said that, could you also shed some importance on doing some sort of certifications around it, if there are any free versions or some high tech market based certification that one can adopt?
Sure. So I know that, for application security, there's one provided by ISC squared, but a lot of it ultimately is about staying up to date with standards, guidelines, requirements, projects on, defensive coding. The OWASP Foundation has a cheat sheet series, which is really good for project basis because you can look up very specific guides to secure whatever you're building at a given time. And
Right.
it's language or framework specific, for example, or process specific. So, for example, there's an attack surface analysis cheat sheet. Um, and tools, you may at least a little bit of pen testing, and I would say preferably a little bit beyond, connecting to Suite and trying Burp Suite or a specific AppSec scanner, but being able to see what can go wrong very visibly is important. And I mean, I think the bare minimum is also doing something with recon or
Okay.
initial information gathering, like at least Nmap, because if you're doing anything with, what a cloud service providers or AWS, or just understanding how things are hosted, then at least that much knowledge is useful. Um, so you just, yeah, really see how that initial access works, or at least Google dorking to understanding how websites come up for initial visibility, and just continuing to learn on your own as well, um, because there are ongoing debates. For example, security through obscurity. Um, how important and what kind of role is that? Does that play? But generally, keeping things such that it's harder to find them is a good technique for layered defense. And that's not specific to one type of system, but it all goes into design choices ultimately, that factors in addition to specific reviews or audits for UX design and how visually appealing it is. There's also metrics to assess the quality of software applications, and that extends beyond compliance, but also just can we do better in terms of security?
Okay.
Additional layers, even if it's not ticking another compliance box. It's
Right.
always a good way to think when you're designing something. And also, like, as far as the user experience, how is their login experience? Um,
Right.
really any sort of improvement in your login experience, for example, is an improvement in the software altogether. But of course, because it falls into the category of authentication, there are also specific requirements, and it also is inherently security related.
Right. So you mentioned about application security, and when we talk about infosec architecture, right, we know that there are many different layers, right, starting top from network layer to all, the critical assets that we have, right? So would you just, help us understand the different layers that we have in infosec architecture, like starting from network and then going down to endpoint layer security, then going to AppSec, and then going to databases, and then going on the operations layer, and so on.
Sure. In a nutshell, well, there are known vulnerabilities that are associated with each. So I think
Right.
reading one, going, reading about one in, for example, the MITRE attack framework, or the MITRE, or any of these NVD. If you go to one of the databases of known vulnerabilities for each of these layers, then that is a good starting point. And often they link to other resources, and then you transfer that to whatever vendor you might or may not be using. And I think that's kind of like a good learning progression. So you see that general classification of vulnerabilities, and you kind of map it to a real system, and that's a good practice. Or you map it to your own system if you're actively building a system and wanting to secure it. Because some of them are very specific to certain software, certain components, or certain technologies, but others are more general, especially if you go by, for example, if you go from something like the OWASP top 10 rather than the
Right.
specific disclosure. So um, it's a great way to learn. And I know that a lot of platforms like Hackney, when they do the preventive side exercises, then they often try to guide you this way, which is useful, linking to that NVD database. Yeah. So that, I mean, they're like, it's more about, I guess, the practice and the methodology when you're going by layers, but also, I guess, look up resources on supply chain security, because it kind of inherently um, covers that a little bit, understanding the different
Right.
components. Um, so, and if you look up bill of materials, for example, then now you see that it's not just the SBOM software bill of materials, but it's also, for example, the CBOM, which is cryptography bill of materials. I hear there's some sort of TM bomb threat modeling bill
Right.
of materials coming out. So you just understand inherently what that entails for the supply chain of that given
Mm-hmm.
component, type of software, or type of system, because it really is just understanding what is inside of it in a standard structured manner.
Right. So Joy, as we've known you for a bit longer, I mean, so I read about you, Moshe, that you are very passionate about open source projects and collaborative ecosystems, right? And when this, I believe back in before COVID, I think it was in 2020, that OAPS has come up with this title, dependency checker, that now we call it as software supply chain attack. That now again it has, you know. Changed to some software composition analysis, right? If I'm not wrong. So when and we also know this Log4j incident happened back, right? So what was your contribution to on the OAP side when they were building up this dependency checker software, right? Because I believe that was completely an open source project. So would you like to share your experience around it that may have shaped your approach to cybersecurity?
For that specifically, I didn't Um, I didn't contribute per se, but I
Okay.
definitely noted it and I tried to spread awareness around it um,
Mm-hmm.
in the projects. I messaged everyone, that I was working with about the potential impacts and kind of how to check questions to ask themselves for, pedagogical purposes. Um, because I think, kind of training them to recognize things on their own is great because micromanagement is not a best practice, in my opinion, and it's also
Right.
not actually feasible, especially in a remote environment. So there was that going contextually, going like you probably see a bunch of SBOM vendors. You see a bunch of you know LinkedIn posts about this, etc. What does this mean for your system? And yeah, I mean, just trying to get that conversation going with clients, with colleagues, with friends, and um, because it was open source, like trying to get people
Right.
to experiment with it as well and see how easy it is to use, engage with the Slack channel because it is all open and the people behind it. And um, I also held a OWASP vulnerability management guide um, meetup virtually,
Right.
and
Right.
we hit upon that due to the timing and how that plays into the technical parts of vulnerability management in addition to the process aspect.
Right.
So we had one speaker who specifically a Java expert who spoke on that. So that's good because getting subject matter experts and knowing where you're not specifically an expert is super good for the training or like implementation aspects because
Right.
I don't have extensive expertise in the Java ecosystem per se like this woman did. So she's been a
Right.
Java developer for years. So like
Okay.
specifically Java. So
Okay. Uh, Coming back to you, Shivani, could you help us understand, like, and overcoming challenges in this in a male-dominant industry? That is, if there is any gender bias, and if there is any needed, if there is any requirement of breaking stereotypes in cybersecurity.
Like from my experience, like I would say from my experience, like I haven't ever faced any kind of uh, what do we say? I'm just finding the right word, like an oppression or like something that has been not been given to me. I think you always stand equal if you have the right mindset and the right skills to do the job. So
Yeah.
that has always taken me further. So from my perspective, I don't feel like uh, it is male dominated. There are male who are working, and I think they're more of an allies. And I think things are changing. I wouldn't deny that maybe women have not faced certain situations. They might have faced pay disparity, and there are other things that getting promotions. There are things that are prevalent, but from my experience, I haven't faced any situation in my life in my career that I have not been given something just because there is a better male to do that. So I think there are a lot of changes that is happening around society. People want to see more women because of the problem solving skills and the diverse mindset that we bring, because we always lead with empathy, and I think
Right.
that solves really a lot of problems at a business level too. So uh, I understand there is like lot of things around imposter syndrome. We might be like highly skilled, excellent at what we do, but still we will have that 0.001% down doubt about ourselves, like what if I couldn't do, or what if I couldn't deliver. So that happened with me too, but I think I have learned over time to push through that mindset of mine, because once you get into that cycle of thinking like what if, matter is done over there.
Right.
You can't take the next step. I think that overthinking just crushes everything down. So I
Right.
would say just push through that and just go get what you want. Even if you are not 110%, you would be 100% right for it. So
Correct.
yeah, I think that overachieving mindset is something that women really get to because they want them to prove that I am better. I think if you
Right.
bring mindset that I am better, that problem will solve. You don't have to be better, you have to be like good at what you do. You have
Right.
to have sustenance, substance in what you bring to the table. And when you speak,
Right.
your work should speak for you. And I think that's what has happened in my career, in these 20 plus years of diverse work experience that I had, because I was never into tech. I started my
Right.
journey as an educator. I was a teacher teaching mathematics and science to elementary grade students, and then I came
Oh,
into tech. So I had a lot of good friends, allies, mentors who were men, and they helped me. So I had a very different perspective on this. I think the challenge that as women you have to overcome is you. So you have to overcome yourself. So that's
right.
one thing I want to say. And always find mentors, advisors, build a network. And if you feel, you create that safe space for you, so that you can discuss, you can be open, you can discuss your apprehensions, or any doubts, or just a space where you feel that you can be yourself and just talk about it. So once you're open, you know what you do, you know what to talk to. I think a lot of things will solve. So these are the few challenges I see can be something that a woman face. We faced, everyone faced, everyone journey is very different. So I think this should help them, overcome those challenges.
Thank you, Shivani. It's a very good piece of advice. Zoe, the same question goes to you. Have you ever, had to face some, challenges into overcoming a male dominant gender bias, and you have to break that stereotype within your workplace or, any other, you know, some other corporate that you have worked with or had worked earlier?
So one thing is, kind of assumptions. So, for example, um, hyper focus on the fact that you are a woman, and I know that some of the men who run conferences, for example, who want a women's panel mean well, but to some
Mm-hmm.
extent, hyper focusing on identity gets you away from giving the interesting talks and doing the interesting research behind it sometimes. Although sometimes you do the research, but you still wind up giving the diversity talk. But I
Right.
think challenging women to still stay hold to their specific interests, especially when it can especially when you're entering from an I want to get into security um, kind of angle at entry rather than I'm a developer who wants to get better than at secure coding, or I'm a network engineer who wants to go who wants to become a SOC analyst. Um, and So especially then you can kind of be stagnant as a generalist, even if you could very well be pursuing a passion, but then you get hold back. And I don't think that's an issue um, with women specifically, but probably to maybe shyer people, maybe other types of diverse people, or I mean, it can happen for a lot of reasons, but I think being able to catch yourself and have a set of mentors and friends, likely outside of work in addition to inside of work, to really help you catch that and address that early on is something that I think we all benefit from ultimately, because it's so easy to just kind of get lost. um, Another thing is, yeah, I mean, I think sometimes there is a tendency to feel the need to overcompensate. And again, I don't think that's specific to women, but I think, maybe diverse individuals or just people with certain personalities, honestly, or people in certain environments that might not be the best health, the healthiest. But I think also in terms of the work environment factor, also being part groups like InfoSec Girls and being parts of open source security ecosystems or open ecosystems like OWASP is very important because you get to explore what can be happening in the industry outside of your own organization. And as an entrepreneur, I also rely on that. And another thing about so as an entrepreneur, you also realize that you literally don't get paid if you don't push yourself outside of your comfort zone and assert yourself and be a little bit more decisive, even be a little bit more decisive than you're comfortable with. So I think in a sense, then that is kind of a good cure. It's not, I wouldn't recommend it for people who, for whatever reason, need the stability of a corporate job, whatever that means in this economy. But it's not for everyone, but I think it's like, because it's not subtle that you need to be assertive, it's definitely helped me personally. Because you can't be passive and still get a paycheck. So.
Okay. So, Shivani, coming back to you, what inspired you to establish Keylip Technologies, and what unique challenges have you encountered as a woman entrepreneur in cybersecurity?
Thank you, Antra, for asking me this question. This has always been very, very close to my heart. Uh, when there was COVID and everything was shut down, and uh, I had this. Uh, there is a thing in you, a spark that you want to do something of your own, and you want to build something which is meaningful, and you want to help. And I think that was something that started in me because I was at home, and you just had nothing but time. And that was a time where I saw there was a huge paradigm shift in everything. Everyone was working from home. Suddenly everything changed. Security became the top notch thing for each and every business. Use VPN, every data should be secure. How are you logging in? MFA, 2FA. So for bigger organizations, that was like piece of cake because they already have that infrastructure laid out for them. My focus was the small businesses, maybe mom and shop businesses, and those businesses who have lesser than like 50 employees. So what about those businesses? So I found that very sweet spot. I can help secure businesses and create something meaningful which holds value and which is sustainable. And that's what led to Cleep Technologies uh, starting up. And I was the only one initially. I had a background of compliance, so I was working on compliance front, talking about how things should be, and what are the standards that you can follow initially. And then the bandwagon was joined by our head of partnership and alliances, Pooja, who is still with us, and she will be for a lot of years because she see the value that we create for other people. And what started from 1 to 2, and now we are like 10 plus team members having diverse portfolios, different skill sets: pen tester, forensic analyst, compliance analyst. So I think we kept on building that uh, Avengers team of ours to help a lot of businesses to make sure that they understand what security is and what we bring to the table as Cleep Technologies. That is where we started. So when I talk about the challenges that I have faced in this journey, uh, it has been numerous. It You name it, every day is a challenge. But I think what pushes us through is the resilience and grit to keep going. The first and foremost challenge for me was like, I am not a technical founder. I don't fit the mold of the tech founder, I say, running a tech company. I come from a background of a teacher and then, a compliance analyst, which I became eventually learning. And because I recognize that that is the field I can excel at. And I started learning about it. So understanding the nuances of how penetration testing work, how vulnerability management work. So that was something which was very difficult for me. So I built a team who can do that and who excel and are very good, very powerful in doing that. So I delegated that task. So challenges are something which are part and parcel of your life when you're starting a business, because you need to figure out, what you are good at, what your team is good at, what you can do, what can be delegated. And imposter syndrome, that has been like every day you get it and you can't shy away from that. But then I think that's grit and resilience that made me what I am today. And I'm very proud of what we have built as a team. And because I alone couldn't do it, you need a powerful team, a core team that can help you scale this business. And that is something that we want to build. And the culture of driving everyone together, helping each other, rising from your adversities and your areas of gaps, making you excel in the skills which you don't have, and compensating those within the team. I think that has been really, really grateful. Even me as a founder, I learned from my team, because I would ask them the most stupidest questions sometimes and they would be like, no, this is happening this way. So we have that challenger mindset. So anyone can ask or challenge you on your thought or on your work that you do. So that is something that keeps on going. I think challenges makes you better. They help you scale and they help you analyze what you do not have and what you need to put more focus on. So I wouldn't say like we didn't have challenges. We have challenges. We still face it. But it's like, how you get out of those adversities. So that's what makes you you.
That's well
Right,
said.
Shani, correct. And certainly, we are also proud of you for what you achieved so far. And given the background, it's never easy, right? But you have faced many challenges, and you have that what do you say, ownership in yourself that you can do it and you can overcome each and every challenge that's coming your way, right? That positive attitude is that really matters, right, as a woman. And yeah, that syndrome that's never gonna go away, but still that inner positivity that we bring, right? I think that is something that keeps us and when we when we read such good and fascinating things about women, it drives another woman to why, if she can, why can I, right? So it also create that impact on other women, and they try to become better. I think that's the
Yeah.
impact that we cause. So thank you for setting that example for us, and wish you very luck to upcoming 4 season challenge that you might face. Wish you very luck for the company.
Thank you, Antara.
Zoe, as given your background, so you have been into, I believe, various roles, right, including research associate as well. And I've also read that you've also been lead data architect, right? So, like, how has your interdisciplinary experience shaped your approach to cybersecurity?
Well, it definitely helps me more quickly, identify communications gaps among different team members. Also builds, empathy in a very concrete way in terms of understanding problems that various employees might face, various clients, various customers, depending on the context. Because you've been there, you've done that, and you understand the system and information with which they're working. You understand what they're probably going through day to day in their role from a team perspective as well. Just the daily day to day experience perspective. So um, yeah, so it really just mostly like in a nutshell, helping to build empathy, helping to understand what they need and where they are, and requirements of the project, and you know, align interests. So that's, yeah, the main takeaway from that.
Cool. Also, is there any one cybersecurity myth or misconception that you'd like to debunk?
Ooh. Definitely anything related to, oh, you have to come from a specific background, or only, there's only one way or one route or a certain set of routes. Definitely hyper emphasis on certifications. I definitely like to encourage others to question that, because ultimately you're going to have to think for yourself to come to a solution. And, when you wind up realizing the hard way that no certification actually addresses real world problems in the wild,
Right,
hopefully realizing that early on is a major factor. And again, that's another area of diversity. Not just
right,
someone who, automatically decided that this is a role they wanted because they saw it, and they saw job listings, they liked the pay, they liked the description, and they just went for that certification and didn't question it in terms of their entry into career. That's not necessarily sustainable or transferable. So, for example, if you want to quickly shift to other types of projects, or shift from traditional software systems to emerging tech, then that type of mindset isn't going to be as useful. It's not going to be as agile and transferable. So you're going to want to be able to um, find your own way as much as possible. Um, Try not to rush. Try to always seek knowledge in the form of mentorship, educational resources, etc., on an ongoing basis throughout your career. That's very important. Um, and yeah, I mean, there's some things you can't learn by reading or playing with a system and experimenting, and you need to ask people depending on what it is. But there's time and place and context for all of that in terms of your continuous learning. Also, yeah, as far as continuous education, there are some things that a conference won't be able to provide, whether it be ad hoc
right,
knowledge, or a lot of more kind of technical or practical scenario based skills. I mean, even if a conference does include a CTF activity, sometimes it's kind of limited in scope. And, you know, I think it's very expensive to get to enough conferences to rely on that to,
correct,
for your CTF challenges. You need something in real time. And that's why, Shivani's business model, for example, is, brilliant to involve education as she develops this community of bug hunters.
right,
That is imperative, because it needs to be streamlined. And that's like continuous evidence of progress, continuous evidence of knowledge, and it directly streamlines to the success of these businesses.
right.
Um, so it's a journey, not a, what is that phrase? It's a journey, not a oh God, my
Not a
idiot.
destination, I think. It
Yeah,
should
yeah,
not
yes,
be.
yes. Thank you.
It doesn't matter. The destination doesn't matter. It's the journey that counts. I think like that.
Right.
Thank you.
So, Shivani,
So,
would you like to?
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, you was yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, no.
Please continue.
Go ahead. No, I was just agreeing to Zoe. Yeah, it's the journey because every day
Right,
you learn something, and that fun, that thrill of that entrepreneurship. You have to be at some level of a very crazy person to do this.
right,
Otherwise, not your cup of tea, because you need to be crazy. You need to be crazy to do it and enjoy that.
I'm gonna
Right.
keep quoting you on that, Shivani.
Definitely.
So the same question goes to you as well, Shivani. Like, what are the myths and misconceptions about cybersecurity that you'd like
Yeah.
to debunk?
I think mostly Zoe covered, like, only the technical people can be into it, and she explained very well on that front. From a business perspective, I say, like, only small businesses, they think, only larger enterprises can be attacked and they can be victim to a cybersecurity attack, and they think that they are safe and no one will attack them. So I think that's the myth that we need to debunk, because cyber criminals don't discriminate, and I think they target small and medium sized businesses as much, means more than like enterprise businesses, because they are the soft target and they're easily targeted, segment of businesses. So I think that is a mindset shift we need to create, and that's why we also believe in, like, continuously educating through, like, newsletters and posts, like how you can secure yourself as a small businesses, like basic security tips and tricks. uh, Phishing is something which is like most widely seen, people getting scammed on that $500 gift card, and UPS emails messages that come up here. So they're very easily targeted. So I think that is something, I feel, the that myth is to be debunked. And always, people talk about cybersecurity is all about hacking and penetration testing. There's a lot of social engineering involved in that. I still remember there was a session in infosec girls a very long time back, that one organized, and uh, she talked about getting into a concert, disguising herself as a uh, a trash picker, like she's just going inside to pick up trash, and these are few things, like if you can impenetrate that, so anything is possible. Tailgating into offices, so it's not about all, having that black screen open, writing codes, and having that five screens illuminating in front of your eyes, having some live feed from space station. So no, it's real stuff. People do it, like honeypotting. And so it's like about education and awareness, like what kind of
Right.
thing can happen. So there was this movie I was watching the other day. I don't want to quote it, but then, you know, uh, there was this grandmother, and she got a call from like someone that your grandson has been into an accident and he is in police station, and you need to deposit this $10,000. And she called everybody, no one picked up her call, and she ended up giving $10,000 to a like complete stranger. And that movie is based on real life. And I was like, just imagine, these scammers can scam you in any possible way. So if you feel like it is just only hacking, penetration testing, uploading scripts, payloads, no, it is everywhere. A normal human can also be, hacked in any number of ways, through emotional damage, social engineering, and other stuff. You name it, it's there.
Right.
Um,
Thank you so much, Shivani, for yeah. Sorry, Zoe, you were saying something.
yeah, I mean, 100% so much because the same technical, attempt at an attack could be in place, but it wouldn't matter if people don't click that initial link that
Yeah.
opens up ransomware, for example, because um, they won't be enticed for whatever reason, or they won't give that crypto payout um, because you know it's not someone that they feel that like they want to respond to as far as the initial text. So there are various aspects to this. It's very multifaceted. Um, or like the very sweet sounding fake fake support ticket dude um, who just like I'll help you troubleshoot for free, no worries, just enter this pin, um, give me some access so I can see what's going on. um, I mean, if they're friendly and they seem like they want to help you, then
Yeah,
that's so much of it. But if somebody, seemingly angry or
yeah,
impatient, on the other end of the phone said, "Give me this number," then you're like, "This is
yeah.
a red flag."
Um,
More likely, whereas you're more
Senior
likely to.
citizens are like the easiest target for such kind of attacks.
Right. And social engineering is all about like creating the,
Yeah,
emergency, right? And then, making the victim to fall for their scams, right? Thank you so much
absolutely.
for sharing this, like, this. Uh, the last question for this topic, like any advice to the beginners, maybe it's around like where to begin, the best learning resources that they can get, some of the best tips that you can share with us.
Um, I think as a closing thoughts on like advice to beginners would be, I think uh, start with free resources that is easily available to
Right.
you. YouTube is an excellent source to learn. There are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
content that is available to you for free. Start learning that, try Hack Me, Hack the Box, Coursera. There are so many free courses that Zoe also mentioned by ISC
Right.
with certification of cybersecurity. There's Google cybersecurity certification, which is free. Start with certain free courses. Get your hands on because it is all about practicality. Do CTF.
Right.
Learn about, participate in bug bounty programs. Do ethically, like go to their websites and see if they have any program open or not, and then try to report it responsibly. But that will all come to you when you are, learning by doing it. So practice a lot. And try to build yourself through certifications. After that, after you have learned everything on your own, I think self learning and self discovery is very important. Like me personally, some I have hired people who do not had the industry standard certification, but they were still very good at what they do. And after that they have like achieved certification. So it's not always about, getting a CEH or EJPT. It's about the skill. Learn basics, have a stronger command on your networking operating systems, have that command, and then build on it. So I think cybersecurity isn't just hacking coding. You need to create something which is safer. So start now, start with free, self learn, and build over it.
That's some very good advice, Shivani. Thank you. Zoe, would you like to, add something to it?
Definitely. And one, kind of technical addition to that is, I mean, if you can get some sort of cloud-based um, VM, then that is really good because you don't want to practice less because each time you're trying to get the VM to work. um, and if you can avoid that, then things will be much faster. Um, and you do want to use a virtual machine rather than your own device.
Your
Not
base machine. Yes.
some way you do. So
Right.
yeah. So and that's one other benefit of TryHackMe that they offer a, a GUI based.
Right.
So
Right. Thank you so much for having this key pointers to deep dive into cybersecurity. That is right from starting your a journey in cybersecurity into different other career paths that we have discussed. Thank you so much for sharing light into this. As we move on to our next topic, uh, that is cyber self defense, especially for women. That's that would be a practical step to protect yourself online and navigate and understand the digital tricks safely, because as so cybersecurity and also this increasingly digital landscape, so we are so it's just not just a technical discipline, right? It's a human issue as well, right? Because it does affect how we interact online, and what are the steps that are required for each individual. It's not about just women, but this is basically for everybody. how do we protect our data, and how do we ensure that our personal information remains safe on the internet, right? And there are many more to add to this topic, because since we know this growing landscape and the AI evasion, it's creating a huge noise on the on a louder group, right? So what is important, and how important it is to focus on our own online privacy, and to help and prevent ourselves from the emerging cyber threats, and what would be the proactive or protective strategies that one needs to understand, or you need to have in hands on to protect their data on the internet, right? So just to begin with, you, Zoe, since given your diverse experience, uh, what emerging trends do you foresee at the intersection of data science and uh, cybersecurity?
I see more guidance on LLM security. I see more of the standards um, being based on kind of non-technical context, and
Mm-hmm.
how they're very, in that regard, they're very like technical implementations of social engineering, if you will, because part of for example, how to tamper with a prompt is purely about context and what conversation you're having, what you're asking. By definition, these things are trained based on factors like, who the user is, what kind of persona you're trying to interact as and with. So just think about how that can, factor in as far as security from an attacker perspective, and from a self-defense perspective, from a business defense perspective, even without really, touching the code or thinking about the code per se. From a user perspective, think about that. Definitely, continue to take everything with a grain of salt when you see a news source, or whether it be in an image format or in an article format, um, because deep fakes are just so easy to use and just so
Right.
accessible. And you don't need an attacker doesn't need technical knowledge to access and use those. And there also could be accidents related to misuse. Not all of these attack cases are intentional. Some of it is just misuse due to lack of information, depending, or an accident, or child playing on a cable. I don't know. And there are very little things in that. That's always been the case, but
Right.
especially when there are more emerging threats out there, think about how that could still come into play. Um,
Right.
yeah, I mean, definitely fact checking is important with misinformation, disinformation out there. Um, yeah, I mean that's one thing. Also, a lot more in open source security. Think about the consequences that, for example, in Web3 space, which is heavily reliant on open source development, especially when
Mm-hmm.
there's funding, there's not necessarily incentive to be the best, to update components, etc., or to properly maintain things. So, as much open source scanning, or whatever you can do that is in your set of knowledge, do that before building upon these open source projects. So open source security definitely comes more and more into play for a lot of development, but Web3 obviously being part of that. There was a Solana Web3 JS
Right.
vulnerability that was in the news for good reason. Um, and
And
they
we've also seen the LLM 2 point. I don't remember the version of it. It was also heavily impacted, and the attack was escalated to RC, right? So if you've seen the WhatsApp LLM services, also they were also migrated and upgraded to the latest versions, right? So there's definitely a threat to that as well.
oh yeah.
And as rightly said by Shivani as well, just couple of minutes back, that there are, not just the technical, but there are very common cyber threats that are targeting individual. It could be cyber stalking, it could be doxing, right? It could be a simple social engineering tactics, could be identity theft, could be fraudulent use of some personal data, and so on, right? So,
Yeah, that's
uh,
very common. Cyber threats that
right,
target not just women, like everybody, because see,
right,
online harassment and cyber stalking, making you feel that they have certain videos of you that is controversial and asking you
right,
to send money to you. I think, and as a normal person, anyone will get uh, surprised,
right,
and will get scared, because one of the most important things, no one wants to uh, get uh, this kind of harassment threats. And there are job frauds, asking you like, you have been selected and for this job you have to pay this much of money. There are fake
right,
give, you have one iPhone 16, or some prince of some country sending you $5 million. So we have seen emails of such
right,
kind. So
correct,
these are very common, like phishing, identity theft, impersonating someone, you like you already know, and maybe texting from the same number, because with the use of AI,
right,
anything is possible. And
right,
for us being in security domain, we can identify, but sometimes it becomes too good to be real. Oh, this looks real, but when you inspect, and you will get to know like this is all fake. But for a normal person who doesn't know what security is, or what phishing is, or what personification can be done by someone, it becomes very hard
right,
to identify such kind of threats. Now with the use
right,
of AI, I can email you from your company, impersonating your CEO, and just imagine how real it would look. Like any team member would fall for it. Oh, my boss is sending me
right,
something. It might be true. And then next day, early morning, everyone will be sitting in a security training. So
right,
things
right,
things of that kind happen. It do happen, and I think to curb all this, awareness is very important at a very ground level, not just skipping topics in a security training. I think real meaningful example based training is very important, because unless and until
correct,
some to you personally, you don't take it seriously. So I feel in that
correct,
way. So there are a lot of scams of that kind. I think online harassment is like one of the most prevalent ones, where people try to harass you into something, and
right,
usually very focused on women, and it
correct,
becomes a matter of grave concern on that part.
correct, very correct.
Yeah.
So as a cybersecurity professionals, we often deal with ethical gray areas like privacy versus security, right? So it's like surveillance versus freedom. So how do we strike a balance between security and personal rights, especially when it comes to protecting women online?
Uh, I think few of the very basic steps that everyone should follow should be like safe passwords habit. Like it is very basic. We always emphasize like use strong passwords, and maybe change it every 3 months. Have an MFA or use an authenticator. I think that is very basic, and everyone should be doing that, because your password cannot be password 123, or your pet's name at 123, or just 12345, because it is easily guessable. So have something which is like very secure, like 15 16 digit. There are a lot of password generator, or you can even generate it on your own. I think that's the most basic thing that we should do. And then maybe educating ourselves on like common phishing like emails, like your maybe your bank asking you for an OTP, or over here in US, I've seen a lot of USPS messages, track your, we couldn't reach you to deliver your package. Zoe must know these, you keep getting these messages. So contact us. I think to recognize that would be very, very important, because you can just see it is from some outlook.com. No USPS will send you from that. So, and if someone emails you that, I'm your uncle from somewhere and I have left you an inheritance like a castle, please don't believe such kind of things. So there are a lot of weird things that happen. So I think recognizing those and making sure that you don't fall for those, educating yourself how normal phishing or normal scam emails look like, that would be helpful. And then I think oversharing, like your birthdays,
Correct.
your addresses, or I am here, that location pins. I think we can play with our social media settings a little bit. Everyone wants to
Correct.
be out on Insta and FB. That's okay. That's why the platform is. But we can be a little
Correct.
cognizant in what we are sharing, and what
Correct.
is relevant, what is required. So
Correct. Correct. It is very important to, look forward to our privacy settings on social media as well.
yeah,
And very rightly said, we need to look at what we are sharing, what the personal information we are sharing with, on such platforms. And also we need to, look at the safe browsing habits of ours, and some, avoiding some visiting some malicious websites. So following just basics and maybe just look for HTTPS if the website is running all right,
right.
and many other things that you've discussed. Right? So you were saying something. Sorry, I cut you out in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, definitely be careful what you put on, what information you put online. Always question the, prompts to, trust this resource or trust this site, or, remember this device or browser. Um, Not privacy specific, but, read over the reasoning behind software updates. And I mean, if it does make sense, then keep your software up to date. But just also being able to understand a little bit of why. Like, for example, is there a bug fix um, involved, and then you understand the importance of that. Um, and doing due diligence in your personal applications as well in the initial purchase. So, for example, if they're 5 out of 5 stars from a lot of different reviewers, then that things like that build a little bit more credibility. If you look up the provider and they generally have a good reputation, then that's comforting. Due diligence is not limited to, you know, business use. It's also your personal use, even the little things. Even if you're just downloading a game, and there are a lot of interesting resources and threats specific to game hacking, for a good reason. Getting to level up and figuring out those cheats is apparently quite common. So yeah, that just password hygiene,
Right.
factor and yeah, I mean thinking about trying to identify social engineering, whether it be over text or over email or another forum. Recognize that, for example, if someone knows something about you, then they have a lot
Right.
of places on the web to search. It's not
Correct.
because they know you. So, always question thought errors like, well, if they know that I'm associated with this person, then they must know what they're talking about. They must know me. I must have just forgotten them, or they changed their numbers. So let me be a little bit more relaxed in sharing more information with this person. That's not a good idea, because they have there's just it's easy for them to get things even just by Google. It's
Right.
not a fancy hacking tool.
Right. And with this, evolving ChatGPT, DeepSeek, I think that's an advance to what we are currently looking at, right? Just, I mean, you have touched out a very crucial point, of verifying the applications that we are, trying to have it installed on our devices, right? So there was one this big case that happened back like 5 years back. It was of scam scanner. Basically, that app had a malicious malware in it, right? And the Google security check pass was readily bypassed, and that was live, and millions of users have downloaded it and they were affected with this. But thanks to Kaspersky for identifying that, and then that helped even Google as well to remove that app entirely from the platform. That helped. But again, awareness and a few basic checkbacks at individual level is must, right, to help keep us safe from such threats being getting affected and also prevent ourselves from, right. So that's a very good point that you have highlighted. Thank you for that. So right. So this is just a call to ask question. So uh, if you had the power to change one thing today in cybersecurity industry to make it more inclusive or maybe more impactful or more meaningful for women, what would it be?
Hmm. One thing to change, I mean, I think it would probably be a category of things to change, which is, any sort of fear or self consciousness or imposter syndrome. Just
Right,
minimizing that, throwing that away quite early. Um,
right,
so kind of anything regarding that. Just staying curious, keeping an open mind. Um, because there's just so much, and
right,
yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
totally
I believe like creating an environment where your ideas are heard, you feel valued. I think that really makes a lot of difference. And we have seen like firsthand in our organization too that if everyone has an voice to raise their own opinion and contribute to uh, the current challenges, I think that really creates and fosters an environment of diversity and inclusivity. I think that would be the one thing that can change the perspective from a woman's point of view. And then I think it always flows down from top to bottom. It has to come from
right,
the higher level management, having flexible work opportunities, make being little empathetic, and recognizing them at the right point at the right moment. That really helps boost the morale, and having a having like like zero tolerance for any kind of biases. So that's a culture which is built from top, and that has to come from the top level management. So I think these
right,
are two things: building culture and creating more uh, opportunities and inclusive environments for women.
right. Thank you so much. And I think we've covered all the questions that we had for today for both the topics. And for the audience, as we wrap up, this powerful discussion, let's focus on the key takeaways that will leave a lasting impact, on an individual scale. So the goal here is to ensure that every attendee walks away feeling empowered, informed, and ready to take actions, whether it's about your own security settings, some other privacy guidelines, or the other, variants areas that we have touched base today. And so whether also it is about advocating for safer online spaces for women, right. So just the last, I think one thing that I'd like to ask you. So what one powerful tip that you'd like to share with us, based on your experience in cybersecurity?
um, uh, like from my perspective, Andhra, I would like to say like don't think like cybersecurity is only for IT and technical teams. Cybersecurity is for everyone. So think of it like, as locking your front door. So just have
Right,
that simple mindset. It is for everybody. So
right,
you it is part of your lives, it is part of your everyday lives. And the point when we understand this, we will make proactive approach, proactive measures. We will have those proactiveness to secure ourselves. So stay aware, stay safe, and be updated on what is happening around, because the key is in your hand. And
right.
that's what.
Anything you'd like to add, Zoe?
Oh, that was just so beautifully said. No, I got nothing.
So,
Thank you.
uh, so yeah, we have had an amazing discussion today, and I want to leave everybody with this thought, especially the audience, that awareness is great, but then action is what truly drives change, right? So I want to challenge each one of you. What's that one step you will take today after today's session? So share your thoughts in the comment, and heartfelt thank you to our panelists, Shivani Sharma and Zoe Britman, for sharing your expertise and such inspiring stories. And let's continue to uplift, educate, and empower each other. Thank you for being a part of this session today. Thank you a lot. Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Antara, for hosting it. I had a great time. And thank you, Zoe, for being the partner in crime.
Of course, thank you both so much. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just quickly get Vandan on the call. Just a minute.
Okay. I think the live hasn't ended, but I'll leave the studio, Zoe. I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.